Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be putting together my April TBR. Now I am going to end up using my trusty little prompt jar again, and I have learned my lesson and taken the lid off in advance because last time it was so very firmly stuck down. But last month I ended up picking 10 prompts, and to be honest, we are nearing the end of March and I still have a couple of those books unread. So part of that is just because I kind of changed tact on some of the videos I ended up filming, and part of that is just sometimes the urge to mood read just takes over, and that just means that what I originally intended to read does not get read. So I intend to try and get 2 more books read before the end of the month, but that will still leave, I think, 1 or 2 books unread. So this time, instead of picking 10 prompts, we are going to be picking 8, just to kind of leave myself a little more wiggle room. So without further ado, let us get started. Our first pick is going to be, turn around so you guys can see it, my mom picks. So currently my mom may or may not be accessible. So actually, you know what? I already have a book in mind. This is perfect. I don't even need to text her. So every year, my mom picks a classic for me to read, and I have not read the classic that she has picked for 2025 yet. So I will be using that book for this prompt, which I currently do not physically have, but I will be reading Fahrenheit 451. So mentally add that to my stack. That will be our first book for April. So next, we're going to do, let's see, is this a reread? Oh gosh, this is like, I'm so glad that I put this in there. Okay, a reread. What do I want to reread? Oh gosh, there's so many. I'm not one of those people who like never ever rereads a book. I love rereading favorites. So I have so many favorite books I could choose from. Honestly, my desire to reread a book oftentimes plays into like how I rate a book. So like the more I would want to reread it, the more likely I am to rate it highly. So excuse the sweatpants, you never saw them. But I think that I really would love to reread The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. So if you have not read this book before, it is following a girl named, or a princess named Laura. She is raised alongside her sisters as spies with the intention of infiltrating other monarchies and taking them down from the inside. And her home country has a deal with the Bridge Kingdom, which the geography of this world is set up so that there is a continent on like one side, a continent on the other, and then there's a chain of islands called the Bridge Kingdom that connects the two, and that's how commerce moves from one continent to the other, because the seas in between the two bodies of land are too rough to traverse by ship, and those who do often find themselves the victims of piracy. So Lara ends up getting married to the king of the Bridge Kingdom, and her stated mission is to take them out from the inside, because there's a thought that since all commerce between the continents flows to the Bridge Kingdom, that they are obscenely rich and they are holding out on their neighbors. So I am super excited to reread this book. I adored the first duology, and it's a series of like interconnected duology. So there's the Bridge Kingdom and the Traitor Queen, and then there is the Inadequate Heir and the Endless War, and then the Twisted Throne, which is the 5th book, is I believe coming out in physical hard copy this month. It came out on Audible a couple months ago, and I've already listened to it. And the 6th book is as yet unreleased, but I will say I did like the first 2 duologies better than the one that is still like ongoing. But I am so very excited to read about these 2 again. They are chef's kiss awesome. Honestly, I think I'm gonna It would be nice to stack the books within your site, but I don't think there's like a good spot to do that here, so we're just not going to. So, next prompt is going to be, let us see here. Da, 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 da. A book that does not start with the. Book that does not start with the. I think I'm going to be picking up All Rose Lead Hair by Mariana Zapata. Now, I think you guys, if you watch any of my videos, have seen this pop up as an option, and then I haven't followed through on reading it before. I think it came up in my, it wasn't my reading 200 pages per day. I think it was how much I realistically read in 24 hours. I think it came up in that video. But I am so excited to read a Mariana Zapata book for the first time. I have heard she is the absolute queen of slow burn. And this book is about, let me just read the back for you. Aurora de la Torre, or Aura to her friends, knows moving back to Pagosa Springs, Colorado, a place that was once home and is now full of bittersweet memories of her late mother, isn't going to be easy. Starting your whole life over probably isn't supposed to be, but after breaking up with her longtime famous musician boyfriend, hiding out in a small town in the mountains might be the perfect remedy for a broken heart. And checking out her landlord who lives across the driveway might just cure it too. Only Tobias Rose doesn't rent out the apartment to her. Rather, it was his teenage son, Amos. Fiercely protective of his family and distrusting of strangers, grumpy and gruff Rhodes initially keeps Little Miss Sunshine Aura at a distance. But over days and weeks, long hikes and fireside chats, Aurora breaks down his walls, and soon an unbreakable friendship blossoms into a once-in-a-lifetime love. So this sounds like a ton of fun. So I'm going to be adding that to my TBR. And then we will pull our next prompt, which is going to be, I don't know if you guys can see it, hopefully. A book that is over 1,000 pages. All right, my friends. So after much hunting, I do not currently own a book that is an unread book that is over 1,000 pages. So we might have to throw that back in the jar at the end of this video and hope that next time it comes up, I own one. The goal was that I would have a Brandon Sanderson book in my midst before I pulled that, but clearly that did not quite happen that way. So my apologies. We're going to have to move on to a different prompt, but hopefully this is a good one. We are going to be picking a book written by a favorite author. So I do not currently own this book because it is not yet released. However, it comes out in the next week. So I will be picking up Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, which comes out on April 1st. And I am so excited. That is probably my most anticipated release of this entire year. So I will be reading that for this prompt. But honestly, she might be my favorite romance author. I just love her books. She does such a wonderful job. So next prompt will be a book that scares you. Okay, so for a book that scares me, I'm going to go with Murtagh by Christopher Paolini. Now, the reason this book scares me is because the Inheritance Cycle, or this Eragon series, is a beloved childhood favorite series of mine. And I'm a little worried that, sometimes when series or like movie series just in general gets dragged out, that it can kind of ruin the magic a little bit of the original. Like sometimes things just don't need another book, another movie, another whatever. So I'm a little worried here that at some point I may find this disappointing enough that it kind of taints the series for me a little bit, but I have faith in Mr. Paolini, so I am going to give it a go. But this follows our titular character, Murtagh. After the events of the original 4 books, he feels that because of his relationship with the old regime, that he is no longer welcome nor safe in Allegasia, and goes off kind of exploring on his own and finding a place that he himself feels like he might be able to belong. So, and then of course there's, the good and evil, light and dark playing out in this book. So I am very excited to get to this, though I am, in fact, a little scared. So that leads us to our next prompt, which will be, what have we got? Dun, dun, dun. A Goodreads Choice winner. Now, I think I know which book I'm going to go with here. I am going to be right back. Now, I am not 100% sure that this has read a Goodreads Choice Award, but I am 90% positive that it has. So we're going to go with The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is on my books to read in 2025 list. So 2 birds with 1 stone. But this is kind of, Ashley Poston has a tendency to write, I would say, like magical realism and romance. And so I am very excited about this. It follows a woman who I believe inherits an apartment from her late aunt. And she finds that the apartment kind of slips between times. So she moves in and then she, I believe, meets somebody who lived in the apartment in the past. And they kind of form a relationship and a romance with each other. So this has been a long-awaited read of mine, and I am excited to put it on my TBR. Hopefully I am correct, and I will not be, having to pick something else for this prompt. So I believe this puts us at, we have 4 physical books, and then we also, I believe, put, was it Fahrenheit 451 and Say You'll Remember Me, which means we are at 6. So I have 2 more prompts, and then we will have my TBR for the month of April. So the end is near, my friends. Let us pick. And we have a book in a genre you don't usually read. Okay, so I think my top 2 most read genres are first fantasy and then romance. And I think the next biggest category I own, according to like my library app, is historical fiction. Honestly, I think I might go with a thriller. So I'm not a big thriller reader just because I find that they're kind of one-off reads. Like you enjoy them once, but once you know the twist, you can never like get that back. So I really love them, but I don't read them frequently because it kind of just feels like there's no like world to fall into. Like that's a very plot-driven book, and I do enjoy escaping to a different world. But I read The Nothing Man by Catherine Ryan Howard in the month of January this year, and I loved it. And it kind of went, I really should be reading more thrillers because I do enjoy them when I read them. I just don't pick them up very frequently. So I think with that being said, I'm going to go grab a thriller from my thriller shelves over there. I will be right back. All right, so I am back with a mitt full of books, and really quickly I want to talk to you about The Nothing Man, which is the book I mentioned just a minute ago, that this is the only thriller I've ever rated 5 stars, and I enjoyed kind of the psychological warfare that happened in this book. So really, really quickly, the plot of this book is a woman publishes a book about a local serial killer whose case has gone cold. And she is the survivor of the serial killer's last attack. And she wants to kind of bring the case back to the light to see if any new evidence comes forward and she can unmask her family's killer. And then we also follow the serial killer as he reads her book and reacts to it and kind of becomes more and more unhinged the deeper he gets into this book. So highly recommend you read it if you have not had a chance. but I personally enjoyed it. That is my favorite thriller book I've ever read. Now, otherwise, this is, I guess I have a thriller, Mr. Horror section, so these are not quite apples to apples here, but I have Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, and then I have the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So I'm kind of in between these two right now. Let's see. Let's read the back and see if there's one that is more interesting to me. Oh, like this is kind of like a whodunit, like a Clue sort of situation, or like a Knives Out. Okay. Honestly, I think I'm going to go with the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle over the other book, just because the other book sounds like it is going to be somewhat of a silly, goofy, fun time, and I feel like that might not fulfill the brief of something outside of your comfort zone. So I'm going to roll with this instead, but it sounds like the premise of this book is our mailman character is trying to solve a death before it happens, and it's a little bit like Groundhog Day. So every time he doesn't solve it and Evelyn Hardcastle ends up dead, he wakes up in the body of a new house guest to then try again to solve her murder. So I am very excited to get to this. This is kind of an unusual read for me, but I know that it is widely loved. So our last prompt, I believe, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, this is our last prompt for the month of April. Hopefully we get a good one, but it will be a book that was gifted to you. Oh dear. Okay, a book that was gifted to you. So actually, the last books that were gifted to me were the Lady of Darkness series. My lovely sister gave them all to me in hardcover, but I had already read those. And then my parents gifted me for Christmas the Spiderwick Chronicles, which I have also already read. They were like a childhood favorite. So I have to go back a little bit and figure out what they have gifted me that I have not read yet. Actually, a friend of mine gifted me a whole bunch of books on my way out. So I went to visit a very good friend of mine in Germany, and she wanted to offload some of her books, and she let me pick some and take some with me. I think that might count as gifting. If not, there's something else. I think we're going to end up picking up one of Becca's books. So now I have to remember what she gave me. All right, so Becca gave me No Exit by Taylor Adams, and the premise of this book is a kidnapped little girl locked in a stranger's van, no help for miles, what would you do? Darby Thorne is a college student stranded by a blizzard at the highway rest stop in the middle of nowhere. She is on the way home to see her sick mother. She'll have to spend the night in the rest stop with 4 complete strangers. Then she stumbles across a little girl locked inside one of their parked cars. There is no cell phone reception, no telephone, no way out because of the snow, and she doesn't know which of the other travelers is the kidnapper. All right, so that means that we have all of our books picked out for our April TBR. We are going to be reading No Exit, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, The 7-Year Slip, Murtagh, All Roads Lead Here, rereading The Bridge Kingdom, and then, of course, picking up Say You'll Remember Me and Fahrenheit 451. I am pretty dang excited about this TBR. So if you have any interest in watching me read any of those books, please stick around. But if you enjoyed the video, please like. If you would like to be around for a while, please subscribe. Either way, I appreciate you joining me today. I hope you have a good one. Bye!